All right, whenever.
The discrimination against women on a global basis is very often attributable to the declaration by religious leaders in Christianity, Islam, and other religions that women are inferior in the eyes of God, said former President Jimmy Carter on a Human Rights Conference on April 2011. Many people believe that religions are sexist. Considering that there are hundreds of religions, I cannot speak for that. However, there are two things that most religions have in common: God and the Bible. I won't be speaking about God, but I will be speaking about the Bible as a secular text. Upon starting my research on Google, I found a number of blogs of women that stopped going to church or stopped having faith because they believed that their doctrines were sexist. I also came across a site titled Top 20 Reasons to Abandon Christianity. And one of those reasons was that the Bible was misogynistic. I also came across a disturbing site titled Evil Bible, which claimed that the Bible is sexist. Now, I don't agree that the Bible is sexist. Definitely men are more prominent in the Bible, but it's not sexist. I'm not saying it's feminist, because it's not, but it's definitely not sexist. And for those of you who do believe that the Bible is sexist, I will be presenting some of the stories where there is a woman more intelligent than a man, where there are women as protectors, and where there are women that have equal power as men. Let's begin with the most famous or infamous woman in the Bible, Eve. So God creates the earth, he creates Adam and Eve, and he tells them, you're not allowed to eat from this tree. But after a long debate with the serpent, Eve does go and take from the tree and then gives it to her husband Adam. From this tale comes the idea that women are evil. They are seductresses. They are the first sinners of the world. But when you take a second look at it, you see the good that came out of Eve's sin and what a buffoon Adam really is. Yes, Eve brought about pain and sin. Okay. But along with that came the fact that because humanity was thrown out of the Garden of Eden, humanity was allowed to experience life. For those of you who believe that the Bible is the Word of God, it's because of Eve that we are able to experience the love, glory, and mercy of God. For those of you who don't believe that the Bible is the Word of God, but think it's an interesting story anyways, we have free will and reasoning from the first human in the world. As for Adam, the Bible reads, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave it to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Adam was there when Eve was having this conversation with the serpent, but Adam had no input in the conversation. He neither encouraged or discouraged Eve from eating from the tree. While Eve goes on for several verses to debate with the serpent, Adam nearly takes the fruit because Eve put it in front of his face. To me, I don't know about you, but to me that sounds somewhat like a caveman. Fruit, ooh, eat. Intellect of women. This is what the Adam and Eve passage shows. So let's take Adam down a notch, because even though he wasn't the first to sin, he had no reasoning skills, which is a virtue our culture honors. And let's take Eve up a notch, because although she was the first sinner, she showed free will and reasoning, something that Adam didn't show. And when you do that, you find that this story really isn't all that sexist. As for protectors, many of you are familiar with the story of Moses. He led the Hebrews out of the captivity of the Egyptians, where they were forced into labor. And Moses led them out of this captivity. The part of this story that is very often forgotten, though, is that there are 3 women, some argue 5, that protected Moses and made sure that he stayed alive. The Pharaoh commanded all his people, every boy that is born to the Hebrews, you shall throw into the Nile. So with this persecution, how did Moses survive? It was women who protected him. Woman number 1, his mom, not his father. Make sure that he was safe for the first 3 months he was with her. He kept her safe even though she was putting her own life at risk. But she finally couldn't keep him anymore. She put him in a basket and down the Nile. Enter woman number 2, his sister Miriam. She was there, standing from afar, making sure that Moses was safe. And later on, she made sure that he went back to his mom. Enter woman number 3, the Pharaoh's daughter. The Pharaoh's daughter welcomes Moses, the Hebrew baby from the Nile, into the royal home, defying the order of the Pharaoh. So these women in the often thought of as sexist text of the Bible show boldness, courage, and ingenuity that makes them the protectors of a male. A baby male, yes, but not just any baby, the Moses. It is because of these women that the great leader of Moses survived. They too are protectors, not just men in the Bible. As for power, the reality is that there are more men heroes than there are women heroes in the Bible. Nonetheless, there are women who have power in the Bible. Let's begin with the prophets. Moses, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah. Most of you have heard of those names. But how many of you have heard of Devorah, or Miriam, or Hulad? Going back to my claim, male prophets do have are more prominent than female prophets. Moses gets 4 books in the Bible, whereas Miriam is only a character in those books. Devorah only gets 2 chapters in Judges, and Hulad only gets 7 verses in 2 Kings. Nonetheless, they do get parts, and they do have power, and they do stuff that that people think only men are supposed to do. Miriam was a prophetess. She was the sister of Moses. And while Moses was constantly being challenged by the Israelites, there's no food, there's no water, why did you bring us out of Egypt? They have no respect for him. But as for Miriam, they show the utmost respect for her. When she is punished by God by being given leprous, they wait for her 7 days for her to heal out of respect for her. Respect that is never shown to the male leader Moses, but given to the female leader Miriam. As for Devorah, she is a tactful mastermind behind an Israelite invasion of a nation. And for Hulad, she delivered a message from God straight to the leader of Israel, not to a secretary and not to a servant, but she is allowed to speak directly to the king of Israel. The job of a prophetess is to deliver a message from God. And because there are these 3 prophetess and many more in the Bible, we know that there is no bias as to who God speaks to. Whether you are male or female, God will choose you. Something that a sexist text would not do. So the next time you hear someone go on about how men are superior than women based on the Bible, or how women are inferior based on the Bible, you can go ahead and tell them about how Eve was more intellectual than Adam, and how there were women who protected the great leader of Israel, and how there are also prophetesses, there are also female leaders in the nation of Israel. So the Bible isn't feminist, but it isn't sexist either. Then what is it? Well, I'll leave you to figure that one out. Thank you.
Pigs are in the shop.
All right, Eileen, what did you think?
I like how you started it with a quote and you get to the point after. It seems like you're very knowledgeable about the Bible. The examples or the evidence is good because it's explained very well to support your claim. And you have good eye contact, gestures, and your tone and voice is good when you emphasize some of the things you want to say.
All right. I like the quote that you started with because it sets up what the controversy is all about, and I think that you deliver it pretty effectively. I think your claim could be just a little bit sharper at the beginning. We know generally what you're saying. And I thought that the preview basically is going to outline a series of stories, and so the material is organized around your supporting proofs, basically. So your claim is that it's not sexist.